Hello, everyone. It's Makeda Valletta, and I am live on my IG page, Makeda Valletta Travels. I will save this video and repost it to my YouTube page, Makeda Valletta Travels. If you're on Instagram, be sure to follow my YouTube page and vice versa. I am live from New York City, one of the cities that's hosting or regions that's hosting the World Cup. And in case you're unfamiliar with me, I travel a lot in America and outside of America. Being a New Yorker, a lot of people value traveling outside of the country and they have barely traveled inside of the country. And I'm sure I have followers all over the world. So I just want to let you know, I do believe New York City is the best city in the world. However, I think if you want a uniquely American experience, New York may not be the best city for that. Also, if you want the best American food, New York is definitely not the best city for that, right? But New York is a city that has a lot of international cuisine from all over the world. But there's so many cities in this country that have really good food. For those of you who are unfamiliar with me, I'm also a nutritionist, okay? I'm a holistic nutritionist, exercise physiologist trainer, but I've been studying food quality everywhere I go. When I go to different places in America, I look at what people have access to, because I myself only, try my best to eat food from local farms, raw dairy, grass-fed and pasture-raised meats and eggs. I try to get my food from local farms as much as possible. I avoid the commercial food industry. To learn more about that, follow my other page, The Body Scientist, where I speak about those things all the time. So for years, when I went to Europe for the first time in 2019, I always understood that they had better food standards, and the whole world doesn't have better food standards. The Caribbean and a lot of South America, Central America has a lot of processed foods. Africa has a lot of processed foods. They're cooking with Maggi and all this MSG and soda and stuff like that. And a lot of toxic products get dumped into Africa and the Caribbean and South America. But Europe has been the one place in the world where they have always said no to that. So I always knew them to have better food standards. So when I went over there, I analyzed their food. And number one, I think that European food is super bland, okay? So food quality is one thing, but then it's also like the dishes that you cook and the taste and the flavor of your food. I was totally unimpressed. Now, however, I did not go to Greece. I heard that Greece and Italy have not been to either one of those countries. I heard that that their food is the best in Europe. But to me, as a general statement, I think European food is pretty bland. Then I started to understand why they were colonizing people to get some more seasoning and spices, even though all European countries weren't colonizers. Their food is unimpressive to me. And I remember thinking, people talk about the food in Paris. I think the food in Chicago and Houston and New Orleans is better than Baltimore is better than the food in Paris, okay? And people often say Americans don't eat vegetables. And I find that every country I've ever been to in the world, whether it's in the Caribbean, South America, Europe, they eat less vegetables than Americans. When I was in Paris and I went to this restaurant that was kind of fancy, and they gave baked chicken and mashed potatoes. In America, they will always put a vegetable on that plate. Nobody ever serves meat and a starch and no vegetable. It's uniform in America. An American dinner plate. You go to the Caribbean, Africa, they eat all these starches and meat. You got chicken, rice, and peas and plantains. There's no vegetables there. The only vegetable I really see Jamaicans eat is cabbage, Whereas Americans eat broccoli, spinach, all different kinds of greens, cabbage, string beans, Brussels sprouts. There's so many different vegetables that we eat. And on our plate, a typical American plate, you have a meat or a fish or whatever, a starch and a vegetable. That's always it. So anyhow, and I also found when I was in some places in Europe, they also had some processed stuff. Not as bad as the U.S., but everything wasn't perfect, right? But when you're in the U.S., you have a lot of processed food, but not all the food is like that, okay? I can tell you because I don't eat that stuff. I haven't eaten McDonald's since the 90s. I educate people all over the country on how to analyze your food, how to source good food sources. There are some top tier food cities in this country and top tier restaurants with quality food, okay? And so the World Cup right now is being hosted in, to my understanding, Philly. Philly is a great food city. Okay, I don't love the city, but they have great food. Okay, um, you have San Francisco. I think was San Francisco on there. Seattle's on there. San Francisco. Dallas. Okay, I've never been to Dallas, but I've been to Houston, and I just assume any place in Texas is going to have good food. I always assume that about the South, even though I didn't think the food in Savannah, Georgia was good, but I'm assuming Dallas has good food. Anybody who has um, been to Dallas and experienced their food scene, please let me know your thoughts. Houston for sure. Houston is one of my favorite food cities. You have Atlanta. Atlanta has great food. Okay. New Orleans is not on the list, but New Orleans has great food. I'm trying to remember the other cities that were on there, but all the cities that were on that food list, I mean, on the World Cup cities that are being, that are hosting the World Cup have great food scenes. And so it's so cool for people to just down everything about America, to just insult America. America sucks. America's this. It's so stressful with that. American food is the worst and it's horrible. And as a world traveler, I've never been to any country where I felt like I had better food than America. Okay. Even when I was in Mexico, and I love Mexico. It's one of my favorite countries. I love Mexican food. But honestly, I've had better Mexican food in America than I had in Mexico. Now, granted, I haven't been everywhere in Mexico. I've been to places on both the Pacific and the Caribbean coast and the middle of the country. Um, and I had some good food, but I've had better Mexican food in America. Um, and then even then in Mexico, you're not going to find, like in America, you can find Jamaican food, Trinidadian food. You can find, every kind of cuisine you want. Can't find all that in Mexico, right? So America also has variety, even amongst international scenes. And when I was growing up, New York was unique in the sense that we had food from all around the world, but now that's not the case. Almost every city in the country has an international food scene, and there's good food. So you have all these Europeans who've come to America and they're discovering how good our food is. Like there's this British dude that I follow who moved to the US and he's always talking about how great the food is and how he discovered bacon and bacon is the most amazing thing. And exactly, I don't see any other country eating bacon. I don't see Caribbeans eating bacon. I don't see Europeans eating bacon. Bacon is like the best. If you're going to eat pork, that's to me is the best part. Um, One of the things that Europeans, because a lot of people deduce American food to fast food. Like American food is just McDonald's and hot dogs and hamburgers, which is so ignorant. And I hate when immigrants who live in America, who've been here for decades, say stuff like that. Because American food is way more than hot dogs and hamburgers and fast food, okay? Fast food is everywhere in the world, okay? American food, we have so many different kinds of barbecue. Okay. My family's from Florida, so we don't barbecue. That's not that, I don't, to my knowledge, unless I'm wrong, because I'm always learning things about American culture and history, because it's very varied from state to state. But there's somebody from Florida who believes that barbecue is a part of the tradition. Let me know, because I don't know of that. My family being from North Florida. So we're not a barbecuing people, but you have Texas barbecue, St. Louis barbecue, Kansas City barbecue. You got North Carolina barbecue. You have all these different kinds of barbecue. Okay. You have, yeah, soul food is one thing. A lot of people think American food is just soul food. It's not just soul food. You have the food that they eat in New Orleans. That's not soul food. That, New Orleans cuisine, Louisiana cuisine. You have the Gullah Geechee in South Carolina, and what they eat is totally different than the rest of America or the rest of the South, or, it's not soul food, it's not the Louisiana food, that's their own cuisine. You have Baltimore, you have Maryland crab cakes. Once you have a crab cake in Maryland, you won't want it anywhere else, okay? You have the food in New England, okay? I don't frequent New England. I've only been in Boston for a couple of hours in my life, but I heard Boston has really good seafood. You have, what is it? The lobster rolls. I've never eaten that before. Well, a lot of people seem to love it. That's another American thing, so you have all kinds of, to me, nobody does breakfast better than Americans and Mexicans, okay? Nobody's going to an African restaurant for breakfast. Nobody's going to a Japanese restaurant for breakfast. Nobody's going to a Thai restaurant for breakfast. Nobody's going to Jamaicans eat ackee and saltfish like that's so amazing, and it's really not. American breakfast, we have all kinds of omelets, all kinds of eggs benedicts. We have all kinds of different cheeses we use. You might put some peppers, some onions, some mushrooms. We got grits, we got cheese grits, we got potatoes. You know what I'm saying? Like we got shrimp and grits, fish and grits, steak and eggs. Like there's so many good things that we eat for breakfast. I'm not talking about cereal and pancakes. That's crap. Mexicans also do breakfast very well, but every other culture, like what do they eat for breakfast? They eat like the same thing they eat for dinner for breakfast. And ackee and saltfish and porridge are two things Jamaicans eat and act like it's so amazing, and it's really not. So to me, American breakfast is top tier. There's no place in Europe in French they're eating baguettes for breakfast. Like, I don't want bread for breakfast, okay? I don't want pastries for breakfast. That's not food. That's dessert. You have in England, they're eating like beans and toast. England, I was in food hell in England. I do not like London. I do not like their accents. I do not like how drab the city is. I do not like anything about it, but their food, I was in food hell when I was in London. It was the most disgusting. It was like activating taste buds of disgusting that I didn't even know existed. Okay. So I'm after I came back from Europe, I was like, I don't want to hear people say anything about American food. American food is so much better than that bland ass shit they got going on in Europe. Okay. And so America's a big butter country, huge on dairy. So I just feel like it's just a popular thing to bash America and a popular thing to bash American food. And I've been hearing the comments for decades and while also studying this, while also being somebody who's very picky about food and food quality. And whenever I travel places, I still try to stick to that. Like, I'm not drinking juice with artificial colors and chemicals in it. I'm not cooking with, I don't want to eat food that people use Maggi and sazon and bouillon with, okay? And every time I see Caribbeans cook, they're always using bouillon, sazon. That stuff is poison. If you want cancer and a brain tumor, that's the prescription for it, okay? Um, and so I remember when I was in Costa Rica over a decade ago, okay, in the jungle, there's monkeys swinging from the trees. And I remember finding out that they cook with MSG by the bags. They go to the store. The Caribbean coast of Costa Rica has the best, most flavorful food. But then I found out that they go to the supermarket and buy huge bags of MSG and cook with it. Okay. We don't do that over here. That's not the norm over here. Okay. So yeah, there's traveling around the U.S. The food here is one of the things I love about America the most. And everything here is not from a commercial food industry. Everything here is not tainted and poisoned. You can eat that if you want, but you also have choices, better choices. Like, even when I use soap, right? I don't use Dove and Irish Springs. I don't use regular soap. I use soap that is made from goat's milk and cocoa butter and olive oil and tallow and stuff like that. I can easily find those soaps in the U.S. Whenever I have left the country, I have never been able to find that. You can't, you go to a drugstore, you have two choices. You know, in America, you have like 10 choices. And if this store doesn't have it, you can go over to Whole Foods or go over here. But it's like in those countries, I feel like I could only find it if like maybe I went to a farmer's market on a Sunday, but it wasn't as easy to find. Natural cleaning products. I don't clean my house with, toxic, harsh cleaning products. I can find natural cleaning products here. On my skin, if I'm using cocoa butter and shea butter and ghee and palm oil and lanolin and castor oil, I can find all those easy in the US. Can't find those easy like that in other countries, right? So I just feel like there's a lot of, I'm a critic, I'm analytical. I like to deal with facts. And I have always said, whenever people ask me what's my favorite cuisine, I always say American and Mexican are the two things I cannot live without. And living in New York City, around people from other countries, it's just a popular thing to just diss American food. And people in New York really don't know much about American food because most people in New York aren't American. Most people in New York don't travel around America. And New York doesn't have great American food. Okay. So it's not the best city for that. You have to go down south in the Midwest to me for that, for real. But the food scene here is great. And I just feel like it's so cool to me to see Europeans saying that. And one of the things they talk about too is our condiments and how we offer more sides on the menu, right? More vegetable sides, more sides, period. But also, because like I told you, when I was in Paris, they gave me mashed potatoes, roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. Like, nobody in America would just give you roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. Like, they're going to put some type of vegetable on the plate. That's always. So the Europeans, they have been surprised at our variety of side options and our condiments. Because I remember being in Amsterdam, and the Netherlands is one of my favorite countries in the world. Amsterdam is one of my favorite cities. And my lovely city of New York has, Dutch roots. Harlem is a Dutch word. Brooklyn, the Dutch is Brooklyn. Amsterdam, all of that is Dutch, right? So New York City was founded by the Dutch. And I see a lot of parallels with Amsterdam. I like Amsterdam a lot. However, in Amsterdam, they eat mayonnaise with their French fries. And I'm like, ew. In America, it's ketchup, but I like to eat barbecue sauce. But like, to have mayonnaise like as the only option to eat with your French fries sucks. Okay. I went to Canada last summer, and I'm really not a fan of Canada. Like, I've only been to Toronto, so maybe I need to go more parts. Not a big fan of Canada because it's just way too north. Like, the sun is not strong enough for me. And it just feels it feels up too high. But their food sucks. Like, Canadian food is like half a step up from British food. Okay. I remember last summer going to see Kendrick Lamar perform in Toronto, and I was at the baseball stadium, and I got some chicken fingers, and I'm like, "Do you have barbecue sauce?" And they're like, "No, we have plum sauce." And I'm like, "Plum sauce? Ew! Like, who the hell wants to eat plum sauce?" I'm like, people talk about American food. Barbecue sauce is way better than plum sauce. It's freaking disgusting. Like, if you just Google, I mean, have you ever seen a Canadian restaurant before? Have you? People say Americans don't have any culture and black Americans don't have any culture. Could somebody tell me what is Canadian culture? Okay. What is Canadian music? What is Canadian food? Google Canadian food. Most of that stuff sounds disgusting. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. Like, American food is better than Canadian food. American food and Mexican food got it going. Canada, you could leave their food. I don't know what they offer to the world. I'm sorry. Like, I know that we get, like, I don't know, we get energy and stuff from them, but I'm just saying, like, culturally, like, if Canada fell off the face of the earth, nobody would notice. And like, their food to me sucks. I don't think that Canada has great food. So I'm just saying, just put some respect on America's name when it comes to food. I feel like it's just been common to criticize our food, common to say that all of it is laced with chemicals and all of it is poison. And that is not true. If you want to learn more about that, follow my other page, The Body Scientist, because I talk about these things all the time. Most people don't want to pay attention, but I talk about these things all the time. How to source good food, how to analyze your food, how to know what you're eating, how to find quality food, and you can easily find it in the US. And there is great food. So I'm glad to see Europeans realizing how great American food is. And if you're a European watching, or you're from, I don't know, another country and you have realized that, please comment. But I love to see it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say that American food is more than soul food. Okay. And like, me being from New York and living in Chicago, I've been in Chicago for almost 10 years and I'm still learning about things that they eat that I've never heard of before. Dishes they eat in Chicago that people on the East Coast know nothing about. Or ways they cook things in Chicago that we don't cook it like that on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? And so literally every city and every state has, um, different foods and traditions that everybody doesn't know about. Right? So I went to Milwaukee and they were eating cheese curds. I've never heard of that before. You won't find that on the East Coast. So it's like every single city and state has different food culture, different foods to try. And so understand, America is too huge of a country to deduce our food down to McDonald's, or to deduce it down to nothing but hot dogs and hamburgers, which are the ignorant comments I've heard from people all my life, especially Caribbeans. And I'm thinking, if you're from the Caribbean, you're from a little island, okay? There's no way that little island has more variety in food than this big country of the United States. If you think that the American food is just hot dogs and hamburgers, okay, on this huge piece of land that is so ignorant and dumb, but you think that your little island has more diversity in food than this big piece of land, you're wrong. And so people should travel around the country more, because traveling from state to state in the U.S. is like traveling to different countries. Every state is so different. As soon as you pass that state line, it's so different. Every state is different. The cities are different. There's so many dope places with good food. Um, and I'm gonna tell you my favorite food cities in this country. Definitely. Oh, you're welcome. Hey, John from Ireland. Um, my favorite food cities are Chicago, Houston, Baltimore. And I'm not saying this in any particular order. Um, I said Houston, Chicago, Baltimore. I think DC has a lot of good food. Philly has good food. New York, I used to think New York was overrated. I'm starting to have some more respect for New York food. It just depends on what cuisine it is. I don't think New York is the best for American food, but I think New York is very good Italian food, good Caribbean food. I'm not a huge Caribbean food person, but New York and Miami are probably the strongest for Caribbean food, even though I'm not a fan of Miami food at all. I think Miami food is overrated. Um, yeah, those are my favorite. Atlanta has good food, but if I had to say, New Orleans has good food. But if I had to say my favorite food cities, it'd be Houston, Chicago, and Baltimore for sure. Um, Maybe DC as well. So yeah, there's just a lot of good food in this country. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Put some respect in America's name when it comes to the food. And to the Europeans who are here, hopefully you're enjoying this beautiful country, because America is very diverse, very different cultures and terrains and architecture and food culture and music in different parts of the country. It's a beautiful country, okay? And out of all the countries I've been to, I love it the most. And it's almost like a taboo thing to say. Like something is like you're a horrible person if you say that you actually like the United States. But I do. Okay, and I have traveled. So anyhow, I'm going to leave this video here. I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you guys get some good sun. And if you want to learn more about health, okay, you want to learn more about food quality, how to source good food, how to analyze and identify your food, because when it comes to your health, what you don't know can hurt you. Follow me on my other page, The Body Scientist, on Instagram, the_body_scientist. And on YouTube, The Body Scientist 81, Mercator Travels. And I'll talk to you guys later, okay? Have a good day. Bye.